the way many protesters were wearing tablecloths and waving flags and supporting Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah.
Trump in turn.
Does it show me? We want to make sure I'm on the right channel here, guys. Are we on Scott County or are we on Mount Percy?
You're on Scott County.
Okay, we're on Scott County. So we'll give it a few seconds here and see who comes in. But we are coming to you live, guys. We are on the road. We are, as no surprise to anybody if they've been watching the updates, it's a good, safe event, and we're safely on our way home. Just wanted to take a few minutes here as we're heading down the road, headed back towards Scott County to just kind of give you all some closing thoughts with what happened and how it went, and maybe Jason's here with me. He'll keep an eye on the comments. If any questions, if you all want to post any questions, we'll certainly take those. So I'm going to pay attention, and again, it's just like I'm talking to somebody next to me. So we're buckled up and we're safe, just having a conversation. We've been talking since we left Richmond through some thoughts and following up on a few comments, some articles that we're seeing. But I guess if I think back about it, how did it go? First off, to the YouTube folks out there, I just want to say I know we had we tried to stream a couple of times. There were a couple of videos that were hung up. We just recently, I think, got those finally taken care of. I couldn't figure out how to stop them, so they just got deleted. I apologize, but I didn't want those events just being hung out there forever. So I did go ahead and delete those particular instances. It was not working. Just to dispel a few myths, I know we've heard some people saying, well, were they blocking the internet? No, I don't think they were blocking the internet. As an IT guy myself, bandwidth just gets full. If you think about if you have a bunch of people to your house, or if your kids play Xbox or something, if you stream movies, if you get a lot of people on your Wi-Fi at home, it sometimes gets locked up. I guess we're buffering right now, so as we're heading down the road, we might run into that again in some of these spots. But the same way that buffering happens, because you have a weak connection, if everybody has a strong connection but everybody's on, then you take up all that bandwidth, and therefore it begins to get clogged. Now, the folks that were on early and maintained a persistent connection that entire time, they're able to maintain that connection, and they kind of reserved for them, because when they attached to the towers, it reserved a certain amount for them. So, I don't think there's anything nefarious about the connections. I think it's just a great rally. Anytime you get that many people together, you're going to have some connectivity problems. So, I hope the buffering's cleaned up a little bit there. The estimates that we heard, we saw a news channel from our home region that said that they posted a report saying that they had talked to someone that was helping with the security measures and population control, and they were estimating the crowd size at about 110,000. I've been in a football stadium where there's been 15 or so thousand people, or even more, I guess, and I would say that's absolutely correct. Neyland Stadium, I've been down to UT Stadium. That's a pretty large stadium. I'm not 100% sure how many people that houses. I want to say, oh gosh, I hate to guess. I hate to throw a number even out there, but I know I want to say around 60,000. I may be way off. I don't know, but I'll just put it this way. What was there would easily have probably filled up Neyland Stadium, I would say probably twice, if not more. It was a lot of people, so it was literally crowded, standing room only. The efforts by Northam, what was annoying about it? It just constricted everybody, put us into a tight place where we were all bumping up against each other. The majority of people had no way of getting into the Capitol grounds simply because of the restrictions on people, which that's not, talking bad about any of our officers or the Capitol Police. They were given an order, and they were given an order to make sure it stays safe according to the procedures for a state of emergency, which I think was incorrectly declared. But under those restrictions, they did it as professionally as they possibly could, and I would say that that under those circumstances, and that's why we had the restrictions that we had on us. It was kind of maybe the only poor part about it that I will say was poor planning. When you went up 9th Street, as you walked up 9th Street, you got to the very end, and it was just a dead end. You had to turn around and come back down. So it was a natural flow for the crowd of people to go up 9th Street. There was no one there saying that there was a dead end or trying to divert traffic otherwise, but you just kind of got a real congestion point. So, but, again, I'm not going to question what they did. They were in charge of security, and they were only in charge of security because they were told they did not give recommendations to do this. They were only, I know the left, the Democrats are trying to say, well, that's what they recommended. No, they came out and said that the Democrats said, if we declare an emergency, how should we handle it? And they gave recommendations on how it should be handled. So all the officers we spoke to were incredibly pleasant, very polite. I think probably the only negative thing we saw all morning, there was a gentleman that was coming out of the Capitol grounds. He was using a bit of a chair walker, one of those that have the wheels that has a place to sit down. And as he was coming out, there were a couple of, I'm not going to say they were mean. I think that, we were all young and a little bit ignorant, maybe not as respectful as we maybe should have been at one time. As everybody was trying to make way for this older gentleman to safely come out with his walker, there were two younger boys that, they kind of neglected his space. They were more interested in trying to get in front of a camera holding their sign. And there was someone that just made a comment to him. He said, come on, boys, come on, get out of the guy's way. That's literally how he said it. He didn't say it any more negative, but that was probably the most negative thing we saw. So, if that's as negative as it gets, it was a great, great lobby. I won't lie to you guys. And by the way, I posted a video this morning. I'll try to see if maybe I can get it on here later. I accidentally put it on my personal Facebook page, my personal YouTube page. It was about 7 a.m. this morning before we got started, just kind of sharing some thoughts on the morning. And I said a word of prayer, but so I apologize I didn't get it out there, but there wasn't necessarily a lot of great content for the Richmond rally or lobby day. But what I will say is I will say that I think going into it, I had a little bit of concerns about, is Antifa going to show up? Are they going to be doing something that's going to cause issues? In fact, as we were actually walking down there, there was a really, really loud boom. And I mean, I'm sure the officers probably didn't appreciate it, but it was someone dropping a dumpster off at a construction site. And I mean, it was incredibly loud. That certainly, I think, got my attention. We weren't at the square yet. I'm sure anybody down at the square, that probably got their attention as well until they realized that it was, perfectly safe.
There's want to know about the word on Antifa and stuff being there.
So let's elaborate on that. Was Antifa there? If Antifa was there, I can't say that I know they were. If they were there, they were not there in their typical, we see them wearing the face masks and the black garb. There was maybe one or two individuals going around. I don't know that they were necessarily Antifa. I know there were some folks that were a little bit worried about pepper spray or something from folks similar to Antifa or some of the other groups that tend to resort to violence. Certainly Second Amendment supporters never resort to violence as a preference. So I think the face masks that I saw, were they Antifa folks? I don't really think so. I think they were just more folks just trying to, be prepared in case they faced a group like that. So if they were there, there were some posts I saw earlier, I forget what channels or discussions I saw them on, where supposedly Antifa was going to be on the pro-Second Amendment side, and then I saw that the last few days. That should be no news to you guys. But there was some I saw earlier where they were saying that supposedly Antifa had said that they were going to show up and they were going to dress just like everyone else. And actually, I think about it, I had heard about that yesterday. I mean, a little concerned that, were they going to try to do, as they refer to, a false flag event? Were they going to try to act like, NRA folks or VCDL or GOA or any one of the other gun rights groups out there? And were they going to try to cause violence and make it look bad, for Second Amendment supporters? If they were there and they were dressed as normal folks, they did not make it look bad, and in fact, everything went very, very peacefully. Now, we're already starting to see some, I won't say they're false comments, but they're just not necessary comments. Like we're seeing things like, Second Amendment supporters who were mostly white and male, or, Second Amendment supporters that seemed like that descended upon Richmond. You know, it's sounding kind of nefarious, angrily, etc. You know, military fatigue. Guys, listen. I mean, you know, guys, there are people that dance around with glitter on their eyes, and you know, guys that dress up like girls, and you know, all kinds of stuff that happens. And so, you know, if it's offensive that someone dresses up as in a particular way or something, then you know, I can't help that. I mean, I think that if people chose to be in fatigue, that's their choice. And, you know, I'm not going to sit here and make judgment against them or pass any sort of ill content on that. There's nothing illegal about that. That's their choice. So it was a really, really positive event. In fact, I don't know the gentleman's name, but there was one gentleman. I'll maybe try to make a follow-up video and post some of the pictures and some of the video I took while I was there. There was a gentleman. He said he was a Richmond native, lived in Richmond, and he was right near the entry gate at the corner of 9th and Gray Streets. And he was handing out Nutri-Grain bars to folks going in. He was open carry. He had it appeared to be a Glock on his side, open carry. And he was handing out the Nutri-Grain bars just as they were coming by, saying, "Here you go, guys. Y'all want a snack? You know, hey, listen, thanks for coming to my town. We're glad to have you here. You know, stay safe, guys. Be careful. Have a good time." He was not with a group. I mean, you can tell he was just obviously just an individual that was just coming there. And he certainly seemed excited to have folks there. So I think it was, again, it was just a really, really good event. Any sort of concerns, again, I did have some concerns. You know, I'll admit, walking down there, I thought maybe it would have some things that would get heated or turn to violence or, you know, misunderstandings, get, you know, out of whack. None of that happened. Let me give one other example. That was actually, we were down near the bottom of 9th Street, down near Bank Street, where I think most of the media was set up. And I think that was one of the exit points. Don't quote me on that. I didn't get a rather to see if it indeed was an exit point. But down there on that corner, we were down there, and there was an ambulance that, you know, it turned on its sirens, needed to go up. There was someone having an emergency. And instantly everyone started hollering out, and they said, "Part ways, make a path, make a path." And, you know, folks, I mean, I wasn't at the Red Sea when Moses parted the Red Sea. But I'll tell you, it parted right open. The crowd opened right up, gave the perfect chance. That emergency vehicle didn't have to hardly. I mean, they went cautiously up there, obviously, because there was crowds, but nothing was holding it back. It was able to very quickly, I think, get to where its destination was and provide the whatever assistance was needed. So it was a great lobby day. Now, I will say, we did leave just a few minutes early. You know, please don't hate us for that, but, you know, I've got to get to work tomorrow. Jason's got to be working tomorrow. We've got families to get back to. You know, I wanted to try to get home tonight and spend some time with my family. I did kind of walking downtown. I don't know what, my foot started cramping up on me. The pool I swam in swam in the hotel was like ice water this morning, so I don't know if that had something to do with that. I don't know, but anyways, like I said, we left just a little bit before the rally started to kind of, you know, end up there. We did see Brett Bart was doing a stream on Facebook, and at the very, very end, there did appear to be some antagonistic protesters on the anti-gun side. We saw video for Brett Bart where they were on a loudspeaker screaming. They referred to them as white supremacists. And the police quickly disbanded it and broke it up. So if you see that on TV, that was at the very end when a lot of the Second Amendment supporters had already left. So, again, it was a great rally. What I was saying earlier about, you know, mostly white male or whatever else, guys, it was a mix. I mean, technically, was it mostly white males? Probably, okay? I mean, you know, right now that still happens to be a majority of the country. So almost any event you go to, statistically speaking, is probably going to be predominantly, if it's a general type cause, unless it's, you know, intended for a, you know, subgroup of the population, it's probably going to be mostly white males. So, you know, I just think those little drop lines like that are just completely unnecessary, and they divert away from the reality of what it was. In reality, it was a group of citizens, period, white, black. I saw Hispanic. I saw Asian. I mean, I saw Middle Eastern. I saw folks that I think there's no question they were, Democrat. We saw LGBTQ flags that were saying, listen, I'm gay and I still want my firearm. So, my guess is that person probably typically votes Democrat. I think we probably had a lot of your Democrat folks that were out there because this is absolutely an issue for both sides to be very concerned with. And, again, it was a rally. It was a lobby. It's not a rally. It was a lobby day where citizens came together, had a great, peaceful rally. I told you it was so tight in there that when you'd bump, you were squeezing around like sardines, and that's thanks to Northam. If it hadn't been for Northam, everybody could have gotten to the Capitol, could have got some great pictures. We could have seen the people's property. It was so disappointing the way that Northam did that, and I know they'll probably try to twist it and say, well, it was a safe event because of our measures. No, Mr. Northam, it's been a safe event for the past 20 years. I mean, period. So, but when you bump into somebody, you both kind of look at each other and say, oh, pardon me, sorry about that, excuse me, man. No problem, brother, it's good. Folks tapping on my Bible saying that's the best tool you can have. It was really, really good. So, Jared, are there any questions? Anything talking about?
Somebody just asking about a Congress lady running for Congress in Colorado. Heard anything about her? Haven't heard anything about her.
I do not know. So I guess, guys, I'll be honest with you. My focus certainly right now is on Virginia. I do not know what's going on in Colorado. If you want to add some more context to that, I can certainly look it up. But I have no clue what's going on in Colorado, so I can't speak to that.
She owns the restaurants where she allows and actively tries to get her waitresses to carry firearms. Okay, so so there's apparently a lady has running for Congress who encourages her employees at her establishment to carry firearms. So regardless of who she is, I can talk on that topic. So, I mean, to me personally, guys, if I walk into a gun-free zone, and maybe I should be a little bit less patriotic of those areas, and not go there as much. I will admit I try to usually avoid them, right? But, if somebody has a birthday party for one of my family members at a location like that, I don't want to, throw my family to the side. So, we should always, I want to say that we should always respect those signs that say that a firearm is not allowed in those establishments. But, it's also my understanding from officers I've spoke to that if you happen to carry in there, they sort of like at the Capitol grounds today, that all they can do is ask you to leave. So I'll just leave it at that. But, I guess I would say that in a gun-free zone, it's just an absolute. If you put your mindset in for a moment in the mindset of a criminal, of an evil person, and if you want to do harm to somebody, I think it's pretty simple where you would go. I don't need to elaborate on that. It's just I think that they talk about common sense. That's just common sense. That's just a fact. If it was as simple as putting a sign up, then I guess all we'd have to do is make a law that says cocaine's illegal, right? Or do we have to put up signs that say, sorry, no cocaine allowed? I don't think it works that way. So if she's encouraging her employees to have a firearm, then I would say that what she is a strong advocate for is for people to practice their God-given rights. She's a supporter of that, and she is a supporter of safety for her employees. So can accidents happen? Yes, they can. I'd love to think that maybe she's doing that, and maybe she's having weekends and taking all of her employees out to the range and having a good time, buying a couple hundred rounds of ammo and, having some fun with her crew. That would be pretty cool. Be pretty great. Really good to address this. Well, somebody posted in here kind of a little snarky, but says, so it changes nothing. Northam will still pass whatever law he wants because he was not removed by Patriots.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Well, and first off, I do believe there were some folks that came out. I can't say it's absolutely confirmed, but I know we heard yesterday even that some of the Democrats were not going to be there. I did not get to get inside the Capitol grounds, so I did not get to see my delegate or my senator. I do not know if the Democrats showed up or not. I'll try to get. As a matter of fact, I will get word of that later on, and I'll find out for sure and let you know. Yeah, we've got responses. So if you guys, I can't say I confirm that. Hopefully you guys, if you all have a link to that, to a confirmed response, that they were not there. That was the last we heard, and I'll be honest with you, I'd be surprised if they were there. I'll add that too, but I cannot confirm that for certain. Again, I was not in there, and nor have I seen an official, source that said that. But let's address that. So we get nothing. I would say no. I would say this was actually a big success for the Second Amendment supporters for a number of reasons. One, it completely dispelled the myth that Northam was trying to sow that, this is going to be a disaster and violence is going to break out, yada, yada, yada. I mean, that was completely dispelled. That was, it kind of, I don't know how the media will interpret it. I mean, they may twist it however they want. I mean, we've already seen that to some degree, but to anybody that was there and to anybody that, has the facts of the event, that becomes a laughing stock of an action. It just shows how ridiculously absurd his attempt to criminalize and demonize Second Amendment supporters is. It was absolutely ridiculous. Let's talk a little bit about what this means, okay, and how we move forward. And I'll address this in a future video because I can elaborate on this a lot more. But, I'll be honest with you, so you referred to, we didn't remove him from office today. Guys, if we had went in there and marched in there, if a militia group or whatever else, and I'm not going to call it a militia group because a militia is a good thing. Let's say a group of, I'll say maybe well-intended, however, what's the right word? Not discipline, it's not even that. It's just, not using good choice, not using good wisdom. If they had went in there to, carry him out of there or whatever else, okay, yeah, 200 years ago we would have, right? I mean, and that was a very different political atmosphere. But we live in a very politically correct world. I don't like politically correct, but let me tell you something. There's an old saying that says perception is reality. And whether we like that or not, I'd love to eventually get back to a time where, being politically correct could be a thing of the past. But that's not going to happen overnight. And what we have to remember as Second Amendment supporters is that there are people that are on the fence, okay? I do believe the silent majority of America, probably, 80%. I wouldn't be surprised if it's that high. If you could truly ask every single American citizen, I think it's a very, very high percentage that supports the second. But even if it is 80%, it's like, man, heck, wouldn't it be great if it was 95%? So even if, let's just say it's 80%, right? That means there's still some people on the fence. And I'm going to be honest with you, I sympathize with some of them. Let me clarify that. I do not sympathize with ones that do not want to have a conversation. I do not sympathize with people that are choosing ignorance. I do not sympathize with people that have blind hatred and blind ignorance, okay? That is their choice, and there's not much you can do to have a conversation with folks like that. But to the folks that are on the fence that have been raised around, perhaps folks that just never had firearms. Perhaps they, maybe when they were a child, they had a friend that maybe, injured themselves accidentally with a firearm, or maybe they were a victim of domestic abuse. There are a lot of reasons that I can look at it and understand, psychologically speaking, why someone might have a distaste for firearms. And they may be the ones that are on the fence, okay? Now, in their, psychological passionate state that is truly understandable that takes to that mindset, there is, I think, some bit of ignorance if they're on the fence, if they're thinking that, hey, maybe we don't need the Second Amendment. The ignorance is there, needs to be addressed if possible, and abridged with simple facts about, that, evil exists in this world and bad things happen, and, now that you have the choice to not practice your Second Amendment, and all we're asking for is that equal right to make a choice. I have no problem saying this is not necessarily about a firearm issue. This is truly kind of an equality issue, right? The left, they have their choice. They can choose, and they are trying to force their choice, the choice that they're comfortable with, upon everyone else. That is not equality. So I have no problem making the analogy of this to a
to an equality issue. I think it's a very easy argument to make. So we need to remember and be cognizant of those folks that are on the fence. Because, guys, let's say we're at 80%. You know, if we can have a conversation with those folks and we can bridge their ignorance, and it's not, remember, ignorance is not a bad thing. We're all ignorant of different things. I have no idea how to put on makeup, okay? I am completely ignorant. So if I see somebody wearing makeup, I'm like, man, they really messed that one up. I'm speaking pretty ignorantly because I don't, I wouldn't be able to tell them how to do it, So they may make a comment, but they're speaking from a point of ignorance. So let's bridge that gap and try to reach out to some of those folks. I've been having a conversation earlier online with somebody that, I made a comment online about how it was a good, peaceful rally, basically. People on both sides came together to support our God-given rights. And this person just went into, ad hominems and, blah, 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 and sexism and, all just nonsense. And it's like, I want to be like, if they were just like, can't you just be glad? I mean, I made a post that I was basically saying, hey, two groups that don't always agree got together and had a good time. All you want to do is come in and talk bad about that? I mean, come on, man. Can't you just be happy for a moment? Walk away and, just I don't know, just be happy. So, anyway, I'm rambling on a little bit. I hope that made point about the folks in the middle. Let me go back again one more time. So what is the path forward to? I've said it before on some of the streams. I'll say it again. Just to be completely honest with you guys, the Democrats have control. Okay? Can they push some of these bills through? Yes. They have the numbers to do that. Will they? I don't know. Okay? I'm a plan for the worst, hope for the best. I hope they don't. I hope today maybe speaks to them. I hope maybe they change their way. But I'm going to plan for the fact that they probably will push some through. Now, if they push some through, what can we do? There are a lot of options we can do. A lot of people are criticizing the National Rifle Association for not doing something yet. Well, the NRA does do lobbying, and they have been doing some lobbying, not as some other groups. But one of the things the NRA is really good at, and it's one of the reasons they have so much money, is they have a lot of I talked to a group that was at the rally today, and they were a good gun-promoting group, but I asked them, I said, who are you working with? What lawyers do you have? Oh, we're just citizens working together. I have no problem with that. We need a lobby. We as citizens need to make phone calls, keep pressure. But, at some point in time, in a civil society, in our civil society, you're going to have lawyers. They're expensive. So the NRA, Supreme Court justices, are conservative. They've already spoken up that they support the Second Amendment. So I think it would be upheld there. I hope we lost the connection here. I saw something said reconnected there. But we'll wrap this up here real quick since we're starting to buffer some, but just a few more thoughts. So what will we do? We will pursue legal options. I think if it gets to the Supreme Court, it would be upheld. If it doesn't get to the votes, we need to get registered to vote. People say, well, that's stupid. We can't do that. Well, listen, people say it's hard to undo laws. It is hard to undo laws. But what are the Democrats doing right now? They're going against our Constitution. Okay? Now, I would like to say that I don't want it to just always flip-flop back and forth according to whoever's in control, but I think that if they get their way and it really goes bad, let's say it's upheld and it stays in place for, 2 years, right? I'm still showing. All right, I'm still going here, guys, so I'm sorry now, but we'll wrap it up in a minute. We're in between the long roads here, so maybe we're getting some weak signal. But what I would say is we have options. We're going to pursue them. If it does stay in place for 2 years, we've got to get the Republican majority in there. And then we've got to keep pressure on those elected representatives to not make it a change that just flip-flop back and forth, but to make it a permanent change. Maybe a constitutional amendment update where they specifically delineate what we mean by, arms shall not be infringed. It's pretty obvious to me. Mitchell says it's good here. Just refresh. So I don't know. I think there's more options. I'll elaborate more on that on a video down the road. I've got a lot of thoughts leaving this lobbying event, but I guess as we close out here, let me just say, the main thing to take away from today, it was a great lobbying event.
If you see any stories about it being negative, I can personally say I didn't see them. Now, I wasn't obviously everywhere at all times, but I think it was a great positive event. It was a peaceful event. The only ambulances we saw were not from issues, as far as violent issues. We heard that someone maybe had a heart attack earlier. I think there was one lady that they were helping out. I think she was literally just underprepared for the weather. I think she was just literally freezing cold. So, maybe, I don't know, but maybe like me, she had a bum foot or something. I don't know, but I didn't see any violence. Even the groups that I think do have things that separate them. Again, we mentioned, some of the different flags that were going around. They didn't let that separate them today. Today was a great time where people of diverse backgrounds, diverse cultures, ethnicities, ideas, thoughts, races, states, whatever you want to say. I don't know if there were people there from other countries. There might have been. But a lot of different people came together and united around a common cause. And that's what I've really been hoping for this entire time. So I'm going to go ahead and drop out because I see still people saying connection issues. When I get home tonight, I'll make another live stream sometime this evening. I say that now. If I get home and, guys, I've been gone, for a day and a half, I may spend the night with the kids. I don't know. I'll play it by ear, but I'll try to get back on later on. I want to repeat this. Part of my big effort is to get the word out to my friends, my family, my neighbors in Scott County. So I hope and I pray that to the folks in Scott County this was somewhat useful to you. In addition to that, obviously, anybody else this can help. I mean, how can that be bad, right? So to all of my other brothers and sisters out there that support the Second Amendment, we stand by you. We thank you for standing by us as well. So anyways, I guess I'm going to go ahead and kind of drop off here. We're going to continue heading on home. We'll be home in a couple hours. I am going to close with just a real brief prayer. So we'll do that now. So, dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I just want to thank you for a good event today. Me and my brother, we walked away safe. I believe everybody else that I saw that we bumped into and saw and had good conversations with, Lord, they walked away safe. I hope that everybody walked away a little bit enlightened. Lord, if the Democrats were there or not, Lord, I hope they see that, there's no reason to oppress those of us who support our Second Amendment rights. They have their right to choose. We are asking for the same. And Lord, these are God-given rights. Lord, you are our Creator. I want to just say that. You are our Creator, God. So we know in the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, when it talks about our Creator, Lord, that's you. And I stand very firm in that statement. Our forefathers believed in you, God, and I just want to thank you for today. Thank you for these God-given rights, Lord. Thank you that everybody came together and that hopefully everybody indeed did leave safe. Lord, pray for those that were there, even that showed up to protest at the end, God. Just pray for them to open their hearts. Get away from hate. Don't hate. There's no need for violence. There's no need for hatred. As it talks about in Corinthians, I've referred to it many times, Lord. Let's be in charity. Let's be in love about our actions. So, God, thank you for today. I ask you to continue to bless the rest of this trip as we drive home. Let it be safe. And everything else that we do, God, I just ask that everything that we do be to glorify you. All these things in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So, guys, we'll be back on maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. I'll just be honest with you. I'll play it by ear. So we'll see. But thank you guys for all the support. Thank you all for all the prayers. I hope this was something that you can use. I'd love some maybe thumbs ups or whatever you guys got to do. As far as giving me some feedback, it's good to know that if this is useful to you, I want to do it. If it's not useful to you, let me know, and I'd be glad to shut it down. This is your all. It's not for me. I've said it before. Anything that's ever made off this channel will go to local Scott County groups, charity groups. If you all wanted me to keep going and continue this channel, please let me know. If you don't, let me know. I'd like to hear that too. Post any questions, comments. I'll try to get to those later. Until next time, guys, stay safe, fight the good fight, keep your firearms close, but keep God closer. Thank you, guys. Take care.